Hello again, everyone. We're talking about People Come First, the book live. And here's your authors on screen right now: Jenny Langren, John Chapelier, Linda Vetras Nichols, and your host, Ambassador Terry Earthwind Nichols. And this week, we're going to cover and talk about leadership, exploration of self. Interesting thought. What do you think, Linda?
Definitely, because if you're going to lead people and you don't know who you are and how you operate, you don't know your trauma, you don't know your triggers, then how are you supposed to be patient enough to tap into the other people? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But then John Chapelier might have another twist on that too. So let's
he does twist now.
He twists and turns.
Would you mean me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's absolutely true. I mean, the issue is I didn't get an example of a concerned, interested, questioning leader in any class I ever went to, undergraduate or graduate school. Never, not one. Nothing about emotional intelligence, nothing about making a connection, being honest, being consistent, nothing. It was just sort of the boss is in charge, and then whatever that means to you, you go ahead and be that. I can remember saying I ran a number of companies. There weren't any training programs to go to for CEO. It was just like by that time you're supposed to know what you're doing. The problem is that if you didn't know what you were doing before you got there, I'll give you an example. This is a great example. There was a company here in town, and maybe this probably wouldn't be good, but I'll leave it unnamed. But the new CEO came in and had about 1,000 of the employees in an auditorium, and her closing line of her remarks, which were not particularly good, said, "Just remember, I can make extraordinary results with ordinary people." How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Somebody on a board of directors hired this person, okay? So that's the thing that blows my mind. This was 2 weeks ago, so this wasn't like 1980. So it is amazing how, regardless of how much we seem to be ringing this bell, people, it's the bell that we're ringing is harder. I don't disagree with that. It takes more work, takes more intent, takes more paying attention. It takes more listening, which leaders don't have a tendency to do. I certainly wasn't big on that when I was the know-it-all, be-it-all, man behind the curtain in the Wizard of Oz kind of thing. So, once you pull the curtain back and you realize there's not a whole lot here, what are you going to do to fill this up? And that's, without sounding, self-aggrandizing, that's the person that's why you would need a coach. You need somebody who has no other agenda, other than helping you get better at what you're doing. And that's what we do. We help bounce their ideas off before they get to the public, and you say things like, "Don't ever say that out loud." I had a friend of mine say that to me when I got off my very first keynote speech. He came over and said, "No more comments about ex-wives. Never, never, never." I was like, it was just a little funny quip. He said, not to the divorced people in the audience. So you have to remember that, whatever's going on in here, like I used to tell my son, it's not funny unless you're both laughing. Okay? So keep that in mind. So how about you, Jenny? Where are you going with this?
Thank you, John. Before getting on, I was playing around with the word explore. And I see an explorer when I envision this. Who is an explorer? It takes someone who is courageous to walk into the unknown and open up to what is new, not knowing what they will find. And when I think of exploring myself as a human being and as a leader, that's what it takes, because I don't know what I will find. And I'm only gonna do that inner work if I actually value my finding. And that takes me back to valuing myself and recognizing that I am worth knowing. I am worth being explored by me and others. And that brings me to curiosity, to keep a curious mind and keep it open and let go of the outcome, regardless of where it takes me. I'm on that journey of discovery. So couple of words that came to mind.
Behavioral scientist at her expertise. You know, in the book we talk about, you know, you can't send out. Oh, there's a copy of the book, and you know, we talk about self and how important it is to love yourself, because if you don't start out with love for yourself, hey, listen, let's go back to birth. When you came out of the womb, there was only love. There was only that feeling, that warmth, that your world, as far as you were concerned at that point in time. Fortunately, they don't start out by spanking your bottom and making you scream and cry. They do things that will allow you to start the breeding process. But it wasn't traumatic like the top level of this screen right now. We came out screaming. But we also had love. Everything that we saw and equated in the world was all touchy-feely. And, you know, this is really cool. So why not have that at 70 years old or 20 years old or 40 years old, you know, for that matter? Love yourself. Stop and start with love for yourself. Look at the person in the mirror. We all start in the bathroom mirror one way or another on a day. Just look at yourself and smile and say, okay, let's go. That you gave love to you. Now, that smile can go all day long. No matter what's coming up, you can get that smile back by just going back into the mirror. Or just saying to yourself, okay, let's keep going. Because there's only go. There's only learn and be learned. And when we're talking about leadership, is if it's okay with me and we can move forward. Whatever is going on with the people that we're leading, it's okay. Let's figure out where we're going next rather than sit here and grab onto the angst of the moment. Certainly if it's a celebration, let's grab it and let's run. But there's also not, but where did I get that but word? And there's also an opportunity to learn good or bad, because there is no good or bad. There's just a situation of learning. Where does that go? And what can I, as the leader, do to keep the team going and to build their leadership abilities? Linda?
Yeah, I agree. That's a good one. I was listening to you. And that's awesome. Anybody else want to hop in?
Well, it's funny because I listened to Jenny and her thoughtful concepts are, I'm just way too reactionary to get into any thoughtful discussions at all. So when I listen to Jenny, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. It is an exploration. It is a learning. We don't know what we don't know. So if we can become open to finding new lessons and find new teachers, this is what Linda and I were talking about with the book. With my book, is the first thing is willingness. If you want to create changes, you have to be willing to do that. And to be willing to do that, you have to find new teachers to teach you new lessons. Because unless things are going fantastic, you cannot fix this with this. You have to find something out here to bring into here. And you have to bring it in strongly because, you know, I'm not sure what the social scientists think about this, but I don't think that any of our tapes that we tell ourselves, like I'm not worthy, or I have no value, or this is complicated, or I don't get this stuff, I don't think that ever goes away. I think we just put new, more positive tapes on top of that. And we begin to build up a nice buffer so that when we're having troubles or issues, we get that positive bounce back. But if we are under tremendous pressure, that will drive us all the way down into the old tapes. They will pop right back up again. And so it's an ever vigilant process of growth. Growth is, you know, it's an ongoing process. It's what are you reading today? And we have a friend of ours, all of us have a friend who's been reading a business book a week for, I don't know, how long has Todd been reading these books?
20-some years.
You know, I mean, that's maybe a little too far on this side, but I've run into leaders who are in companies or running their own companies or running large organizations for people who really don't read. It's all sort of, well, I kind of work from my gut here. It's like, well, that's great as long as your gut works. You know, it's just, you know, as long as your decisions are going in the right direction, that's fine. But there's many times where your experience in this situation do not match up. So where are you going to go to test this out? Where are you going to go
Right.
to check on what's going on? I mean,
Yeah.
like Terry was talking about with love, if you don't have something, you can't give it. And so we have to work on how valuable am I really, and if you begin to get honest, you get through the, well, I'm not really much of anything, until you get to the reality of, yes, you are. And yes, you are. And you're here. And this isn't necessarily an accident. You didn't stumble into the CEO office. It took you work and planning to get here, whether it's the head of a small business or as head of a large business or just a team or just a family. You're here because there's a situation that you've put together that brought you here. So value it and work to be the best you can be in that situation. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Ladies and gentlemen, it can be as simple, and it's never simple with ourselves and our own thinking, but it can be as simple as, what did you hate about the leaders that you used to work for? Why do you want to treat your people that way?
Ooh.
All right. If you hated it, then they're probably going to hate it too. So, just because this is the way we always do it is no longer valid.
Right.
It has never been valid. It's
Right.
just the easy way out for a leader who lacks the skills to communicate with the people they're working with. They'd rather have them working for them than with them, and they don't understand the concept.
Right.
And it's quite possibly nobody allowed them the opportunity to think the cooperative way.
Mhm.
And that's no longer valid. It's no longer an excuse either, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
Yeah, well, the way we always do it, that took a nosedive through COVID. And then you heard the resurgence of kind of getting back to, well, this is the way we've always done it. When COVID's not in your way.
Yeah.
And that wasn't kind of part of the transformation.
Yeah, absolutely right. And ladies and gentlemen, all four of us have books out there that cover this. We talk about unity and collaboration,
An opening heart.
opening hearts, and the non-duality. There isn't yes or no. There isn't right or wrong. There just is. And where you're going from there. The realization of presence is the point where manifestation becomes action. And that is, you get rid of the angst of the past and the fear of the future, and you're right here. Use what you have already learned to make a decision here. And it's not a good decision or a bad decision. It's simply a decision that can be changed as you learn more. Okay?
Good
So
point.
it's not about, should I do this or should I do that? It is you are present right now and you feel it's the right decision, then move forward. Because when you have love and that self-centeredness and you're in presence, it's probably the right decision. So move forward, and again, you can always change the decision that you made at that
Yeah,
point.
so it's not about, is it right, is it wrong? Just decide. You'll find out soon enough.
Yeah.
But we get so stuck in the decision-making process. John, you have excellent materials in your Thinkific course about like opening up the heart. And do you want to speak to that a little bit? What you teach as far as being willing
Well,
to open up the heart. What do you teach?
Well, opening up the heart to me just simply means becoming aware of other people's issues and other people's needs. The line that I use in the book about love is treating others people's needs as important as my own needs. Not more important and not less important, but as important as my own needs. So that requires me to be willing to try and be uncomfortable, because all new behavior is uncomfortable. That's the problem with New Year's resolutions. They don't last more than a couple of weeks because they're all new behavior. And so we fall back to old behavior. So when we realize we're trying to open our hearts, we have to realize this is going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be new behavior. It's going to feel really weird to be walking up and going, how are you doing today? And actually mean it, and actually be interested and concerned. And that will take some time, because I guarantee you, every employee who works with you or for you has had situations where they have been encouraged to share things with employers, and that trust has been violated time and again and again and again.
Right.
me. I'll take care of it. It'll be there. And they never, and past employers tend to not ever follow through on that. So it's really important to realize that we have to overcome all of that expectation, that negative expectation that coworkers have, and realize that it's going to require time to make this. My heart is open. For me to get you to trust that it's open, it's going to take some consistency, and past experiences that they've had are going to determine how long it takes. We open a heart based on their time frame, not my time frame. You know, I've been good for 3 or 4 weeks. I don't understand why they're not being open-hearted with me now. It's a matter of you are on their timeline. It's just like I've always said, employees or workers all work for their reasons, not for your reasons. You can have all the fancy goals and visions and everything else painted all over the place. But if you don't give them a good reason, they won't be willing enough to move forward on that. So it takes and this is the issue. It takes a lot of work. It takes time, focus, and energy to be that kind of a leader. It doesn't take any energy to be a boss, just yell and scream at the point.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, that's like getting rid of angst, energy, and overflow, right? Jenny, you have a fantastic Thinkific course as well, online course as well. So I'll have you speak to how you work with your clients. I love your expand.
Happy to. My expansion course, which is very much aligned to what both Terry and John have been talking about, because Terry, you speak about presence and the importance of being present with my decision right now, which is truly about honoring myself and staying authentic and allowing life to flow from me instead of being something that I need to manage or deal, something that's forced upon me. And it really, and I'm actually going to reference Dina Marie in this, because it really comes down to knowing what it feels like when I want to open up to something, when I want to say yes to something, and when I want to establish a healthy boundary and say no. That's not really something that I can reason myself to. It's already there. It's already in my soul. It's something that I get to connect with and honor.
Right.
And so expansion is about honoring yourself and allowing your yes to be yes and your no to be no. And this is extra, just tying it back to this topic, it ties back to exploring, especially when we are in crisis. I often meet clients who are experiencing paradigm shifts when it's almost like they're waking up and asking themselves, is this my life? Is this what I chose, really? Yeah. Is this what I want? And it takes so much courage and understanding that you're worthy of creating that life for yourself, to come back to this moment, to be present with honoring yourself in this decision right here. And it's really like the old map isn't working anymore. And you get to be that explorer. I mean, what do we do when we find ourselves in a new place, on new grounds? We don't, it's not like we start running, hopefully. We actually stand still. And we
slow down. Yeah.
Yes, slow down. We start picking up the branches and the stones and explore the terrain. And it's really inch by inch. And for me, that's what exploring is about. It's being in the moment and being open to what I'm finding right now, regardless of what that is.
Delightful. Great conversation today. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about exploration of self. Start here and work out and allow the return. Okay. Any final thoughts, Jenny?
I feel complete. I enjoyed this.
Right? It was a great discussion. Yeah. Thanks,
John?
everybody.
There's a book out there that I read many years ago. And I can't remember the author, but I remember the title. It's called The Concentric Perspective.
Ooh.
And that's designing that entire perspective of moving from here out here. And this is the process. If there's something wrong out here, this is where you go.
Nice.
I have a keynote called It's All Inside. You want to get this to happen, it's all in here. You want that to happen, it's all in here. Everything you want to fix out here starts in here, including good leadership.
Delightful. Linda?
Bam. That's
Thoughts?
spot on. Yeah. he nailed it.
Tapes are available.
She's
There you go.
speechless.
There you go. All
Imagine
right.
that.
I'm Terry Earthwind, along with Linda Vetrus Nichols, John Chapelier, and Jenny Langren. Thanks for joining us this week. See you in 2 weeks for another discussion. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us and
Thank
your
you.
comments.